Hello, we are live. Don't forget to take your mic off mute, HG. Don't forget to take that off mute. Thought I'd better point that out now. We are on Twitter or X, as Musk has now ruined it. We are live on YouTube. It's the Lads, It's Tottenham podcast. I'm joined this evening by Jack, who's not here yet. Apparently, he's getting his hair cut, so make sure we pick that up in the comments. He's having his barnet trimmed. And of course, as ever, by the Harlow Globetrotter. How are you, HG?
I'm doing well. I'm just in shock that you badmouthed Musk on live video, live TV. Since we know
on his
how much
platform, no less.
Oh yeah, not him. Okay, just what he's done with the platform. Okay, good. Yeah.
No, we're live on his platform, and I am bad mouthing him. Someone tell Steve Diver quick.
Yeah, but I'm good. Another week is done. But I'm genuinely excited that Spurs play tomorrow. Because even though how bad we were on Wednesday, the thought that it's coming around again so quickly is making my weekend seem brighter than normal.
Well, I had a lovely day in London town today, celebrating the significant other's birthday. 39 years old, 40's the next year.
Better start organising that surprise party then, caller.
I don't know what I'm going to do with that one, to be honest. It's going to be difficult. We had a lovely time at the Wolseley in London, which was beautiful, and then went to see a show, Stranger Things, which was really good, and it reminded me a lot of my trip to the whatever it's called now. We still call it the Rico Arena, but I think it's like Coventry Building Society Arena now. And we'll kick off with that. But before we do, wherever you're watching tonight, make sure you hit the like button. Please do smash that. Let us know where you're watching from. There's 59 of you already. Get it in the comments. We want to hear from you during the show. I can see, actually, breaking news. I can see Jack has joined. The barnet has been cut, Jack. I mean, I'm going to be really honest. It looked pretty similar to the last time I saw you.
Yeah, it is a fresh haircut, but I don't let it go too long before I get a haircut. I try to make sure I have that look where you never just got a haircut.
Well, the thing is, he cut the mullet. We just never see that. That's what it is.
That's true.
It's been a long time since I've had a mullet.
It's a beautiful head of hair, Jack, and thanks for joining. How is North Carolina tonight?
It is bright and sunny, a beautiful, I don't know, somewhere in the high teens, maybe. I'm not really sure. I still can't do the conversion in my head. I can do currencies. Temperature still screws me up. Celsius messes me up. But it's a nice, beautiful day. And the wife just took off with a friend out of town. So I am a bachelor for the next 50 hours, maybe.
So I've got you as long as I want tonight, then. You're not
pretty much, yeah.
Oh my God! Well, that's an opportunity I cannot refuse. And let's kick off. Let's talk about the trip to the CBS Arena, and this was the starting lineup. HG, how much were you shitting yourself when this came out?
I don't think I was at any point really doing that. But the thing is, when you look at those names, it doesn't feel like the second team that it actually was. Does that make sense? I know that Dragusin and Davies aren't first choice centre backs, but I don't look at them and think, okay, well, they're terrible. It's not like watching Sanchez and fearing the worst. Like, Sarr has started a couple of games this season. We wanted to see Bergvall. Odegaard started against Newcastle, I think it was. So, those players, they've got decent amount of experience. It's not like we're playing a bunch of kids, despite the fact that it was, 8 changes from the side that lost at the weekend. So, yeah, I don't think I was too despondent at seeing the team sheet.
Jack, were you despondent at seeing the team sheet, or could you not take your eyes off that horrible Night logo going vertical?
Well, I mean, 9 of those players I have a lot of confidence. Well, 9 of those players I feel good about. There's the first and last name on the team sheet there. I have some issues with, but no, I mean, I was surprised, to be honest with you. I expected him to go a little bit stronger than he did in terms of regular first team players, or at least what we've seen. But no, I mean, individually, are you freaking out that Dragusin is playing? Are you doggies playing with Gray on the other side, or midfield of Bentancur, Sarr, and Bergvall? I mean, No. Obviously Werner and Forster have their issues, but it seems it didn't dread. I wasn't filled with dread until about 7 minutes into the match.
Well, was it 7 minutes when Forster played that horrible ball and nearly gave a goal away? I thought it was less than that. It was about 3 minutes.
It was before I even really found a link.
Yeah,
like I watched it on the Bet365 website. Not to that, but and I turned on to see like the home crowd were making a load of noise, and there was a replay of Forster making a save, and I was like, "What the heck? I've only missed like a couple of minutes." So it was very early on. That was
Obviously, I was there. This was my view at the CBS Arena. It did fill up a bit. They didn't fill it. Apparently, their supporters. I'm told because I am at work surrounded by Coventry City supporters, unfortunately, or fortunately, as it turned out in the end. But they were staying away because the club was charging £37 to bring a mate or whatever, £30 for season ticket holders. So they were a little bit up in arms. That far end didn't fill up. The rest of the ground did. 25,000, 37 quid. Jack, would you object to paying that? Seems quite reasonable to me.
Yeah, from an American perspective, I can assure you it's not unreasonable prices. And I won't even begin to tell you what I paid for the first Spurs match I ever saw at Southampton. My first match was actually an away match at Southampton about 2015. I won't even tell you what I paid. So, yeah, I mean, but I have a better appreciation for the culture in terms of ticket pricing and that sort of thing. So, yeah, it is a little bit outrageous. But, they probably made a mistake because you could see how few home fans were there, even though you've got a Premier League team in town.
Well, they were noisy though. They were giving it large. Where I was sat was the players' ticket enclosure. So lots of family of the players around.
Why were you in the players' ticket enclosure, caller? Surely there's a story there.
There may be a story there. I'll come on to it in a minute. This was the average. This is basically what you see, and pretty much what there's a few people around me going apoplectic during the game. It's fair to say I wasn't overly enamoured to see Werner and Johnson starting, and I made that thought clear.
Johnson didn't start. We were just so bad.
Oh, sorry. No, he didn't. Odegaard started. He came on very early, didn't he? So, we will come on to Odegaard in a minute. But yes, I was a little bit bemused to see Werner start. I wasn't surprised to see him start, but the way he was playing just in the opening 10 minutes was just utter terrible. And that pattern continued. You may as well have put a fat, middle-aged 42-year-old like me on the pitch because he was just blooming awful. That said, half-time statistics, hey, she told me through what you see here.
You can see that was taken from the Bet365 website. Yeah. I mean, that's the game we all watched, right? We had lots of the ball, and I almost wanted Coventry to have the ball because then we could see some proper football. We were horrific. It was like, I mean, I've said this a few times now. It feels like watching ABB football. Everything's really prescribed. We only have one way of doing it. It's all about controlling the ball and having possession, which is obviously good because the other team can't score. But when you're giving away shots from 26% possession, then there is a massive problem. So yeah, that first half is one that thankfully we don't have to talk about too much because the second half is more interesting.
Yeah, I mean, it was just frustration, really. I went off and got my pie and my pint, which, by the way, was Budweiser. That's what they bought at the stadium. So that wasn't couldn't even seek solace in that.
That shouldn't be allowed. Why is that allowed?
I'll tell you what was weird, and you two can tell me your views on this. So they tried to make the Spurs fans in their way, and as I assume they do for all games, at home, and they'd put a massive Spurs flag up in the bar, and there was like a massive welcome Spurs fans banner, and our like emblem emblazoned on the bar. And I thought to myself, who does that? Because it's not like you want to make the opposition feel particularly welcome. It was very strange. HG, what's your view on that?
I don't think they put cushions out for the players. I don't think they just want you to spend more money. I think that's all it is. It's I would imagine it's designed that we want the fans to feel at home. We want the fans to feel like they're at home. Literally kind of like similar to what it might be at Spurs. But I think they just want you to spend more money. I don't think it's any more than that.
Go back to the starting 11, Jack. Do you feel and I'm picking this comment up here from King Hoddle. Bentancur has to play. I thought that was very obvious because he's going to get banned, so you may as well get the most out of him. Udogie and Solanke need minutes, fitness, confidence. That's all true as well. This game was low priority. Do you think that Ange basically wrote this game off and if we win, we win, but it doesn't really matter with that team selection?
No, I don't think that's the way people any Premier League coach thinks. They're going to have confidence in the squad that they are putting out there. They think they have the talent to beat a team like Coventry. They're not thinking that this is just a throwaway game. That's how we see it. That's not an unreasonable conclusion to make from what you're looking at in terms of the starting lineup. But if you're gonna try and have a 22 man squad, you've got to play them. You've got to keep them fresh. You can't just let them sit on the bench. So that's not the way he's thinking at all. He's thinking that this is a good enough team to take it to a mid-table championship team and get a few goals, put this away early, and cruise to the end. I mean, I can't imagine he's thinking anything else. The performance didn't match those expectations if those were his expectations. But I really don't believe he's thinking, I'm just going to – the Fulham game last year was different. He's still trying to get a handle on what he's got and who he's going to keep. And so, he might have thrown out a bunch of players. He's saying, okay, can I trust these people? Are they following what I'm telling them to do? And we'll see what happens because I'm new to this and we're doing fine in the league. So this is a throwaway game. But after the start we've had, I can't believe he's thrown out that team to think, I'm gonna piss this game away. I don't really care what happens. I'll throw these guys out. I'm not really worried about that. That is not the attitude that a professional.
Do you think he told the players that because it didn't appear that they got that message?
I can't. There's no explanation between what I assume the coaching staff expected to happen and what actually resulted on the pitch. There's no way. I can't explain what we saw. I mean, I was dumbfounded. Because we can all complain about the start of the season, but at least in many respects, there's a lot of good play. There's some green shoots that you could pill out of the first 3 or 4 league games. But that performance up until the 80th minute was an abomination. It really, it really might have been the worst win I've ever seen in my entire life.
I'm just glad I didn't leave early, Jack, for once,
And we all really are disappointed AF that you did not leave because that would have been brilliant. I can't tell you what the miles we would have gotten out of you leaving another game before a miracle comeback would have been just delicious.
Well, it was on the cards. I've got to be honest. Like the guy I went with, who arranged the ticket for me, he was like, let's miss the traffic. This is absolute shit. So we were like, okay, let's go then. And then they scored. So it saved me from the.
So you were halfway out basically. Like the mind was gone.
Mate, the mind was gone after about the 3rd minute. It was appalling. Who is this then? He played 74 minutes for the Lily Whites last night before being substituted due to what appeared to be a slight injury. During this time, he won 5 of his duels, lost possession of the ball 14 times, and failed with every cross and dribble he attempted. And if that wasn't bad enough, to top it off, Fraser Forster had 57 touches and he had 47. Name that player, Jack.
I think it's a particular gentleman from Germany.
Yeah.
Named Timo.
He gets boost bumps or something.
That's correct.
Okay. HG, this is your opportunity. Get it all out. How's the I told you so going on over there?
Well, what do you mean the I told you so? The fact that I didn't really, I certainly didn't want us to re-sign Werner. I was kind of okay with it in January because it was clear that Ange wasn't ever going to give minutes to Brian Hill. And so we did need someone to maybe play a bit more.
Hill's on loan.
Sorry, what?
Hill's gone on loan, hasn't he?
Hill's gone on loan. But
I suppose my question with Hill, I'm going to interrupt you because I was watching that game and I was thinking, so he's brought Werner in Hill was no worse than that. In fact, I'd say he was a darn sight better in the games that he played. I mean, what was the point?
No, but the point was, I guess, that Ange just never wanted Brian, never really trusted him, was never going to play him. And if that's the situation, then I guess you need someone to replace that body. And even at the end of last season, I didn't think Werner would play as much as he did. I thought he was just going to be the sub who might come on, or we didn't have any midweek games then to worry about. But when we signed him or re-signed him in May, I was pretty angry because I didn't rate Werner. I don't rate him as a winger. I don't think he can cross the ball. He's pace, but nothing else. And I mean, I guess there's lots of evidence now to suggest that that's what Ange likes, is people who have pace but not much else. So yeah, like I don't hate Werner. I certainly didn't hate him as much as everyone seems to have in the game in Wednesday. Like I thought he was bad, but I thought everyone was pretty bad. I just feel that, I guess the one thing you can say is that the best thing Werner did was get injured, which is awful. But like, because I don't think he would have come off. I don't think Ange had any intention to bring Kulusevski on when he did. I think that Werner got injured trying to block a ball, which I guess is admirable in some sense. But the fact that he went off changed the game for us.
It's true. Look, there was a scientific poll study done. Would you prefer Werner or Johnson? All we can say is "or" is the winner. So you got to laugh, haven't you? Got to laugh. Yeah. Look, I mean.
So that is basically, that sums up our season so far, right? Like, we are going to play with wingers that we don't particularly rate at least until January and probably longer. And that poll will continue to be around, I imagine, and I suspect all will continue to win.
Yeah, I just don't really. I mean, I don't really understand. It just goes back to my frustrations, and I said this on the pod. Last week on Cheese Room podcast. It just goes back to our failure in the window. Some people were saying it's okay. We've had a good window. We've signed lots of youth, but Archie Gray looked a bit lost. If I'm being really honest, I thought he didn't know where he was supposed to be.
Yeah.
Odebear, before he got injured, and let's hope it's not too bad, but we've got an update on that in a minute. Odebear, I thought, looked lost, and every time he's played, he's looked like a bit of a headless chicken, if I'm honest. Someone who is 19 years old, it's not that surprising that, the end product isn't there. And then, we haven't reinforced where we needed. We needed an out-and-out world-class winger. You're telling me Neto couldn't have torn that team to pieces. You're telling me we don't need a great DM. Well, we do, especially now Bentancur's out.
I mean, is it like Neto could have injured his hamstring in the same way that Odebear did? So,
perfectly true. But you'd have had someone who could change and win a game on his own in the team. And this is going back to the failure of the window. So it's really, really, really frustrating. Anyway, as I digress, I'll go back to the game. So I'm there. I'm with my mate from work who's sorted me this ticket, and and I'm laying into Johnson because, let's be fair, Johnson hasn't been very good this season and wasn't very happy. I was being quite vocal about it, in fact. And
what were you saying? What were you saying, Caller? What kind of things were you saying?
I mean, the kind of things were, I'd have more clue than you, Sunshine, politely. You shouldn't be in a Spurs shirt, maybe. And why do you keep playing this guy? He's a clown. And various things like that. But I was saying that about Timo as well. So I'll preface it. Everyone was equal that night in my dislike. I mean, when you've paid good money for a ticket, all got one free. You are entitled to voice your dismay,
regardless who's sitting around you.
Well, that's where I'm coming on to. So, in about the 70th minute, one of the parents of one of the players who I might happen to sort of have a mutual friend with leaned over and said, "Just let you know, you might want to keep it down, lads," because my mate was giving it loads as well. He was like, "That's Brennan Johnson's mum sat right in front of you, Owen." I was like, "Oh, shit." And that's his dad to your left. Oh, Dave Johnson.
Might have been helpful in the second minute, not the 70th.
Now, of course, if I'd have known this, maybe I'd have been a bit more tempered, but they must hear it all the time. I'm really sorry. I didn't mean to upset anyone. But clearly, I was forgiven. Look, there we are, having a little laugh and a joke. Yeah, I am significantly taller than him. In fact, he looks very short there, doesn't he?
You're a row higher, caller. That's all it is.
We're next to each other.
No.
Yeah, seriously, we're next to each other.
You just said the mum was
In
the mum was in
front.
front.
Yes.
And
to my left.
You were sat next to Brennan Johnson's dad.
Yes. Yeah. He used to play for Forest, David Johnson.
Yeah.
So yeah. I wondered why he knew. I wondered why he knew so many people in the area. I thought he was a random. So anyway, at that point, that obviously Brennan scored at the end. He sort of fist pumped a lot and gave me a massive bear hug, and I was like, "What a player! What a player! You must be so proud. He's come good. This is brilliant." you know. And all was well. And his mum was like, "Yes, get in, son." I'll say one thing, right? Brennan's mum is a proper supporter of the club. Like, she didn't stop all the chants all night. She was all over it. She was doing the fingers with when the Spurs go marching. Like, now I know that's the situation. That they've gone up in my estimation in an enormous amount, the Johnsons, and I'm going to now buy a Brennan Johnson shirt with his name on the back.
Oh, that's
wow.
beautiful.
Yeah.
Which shirt?
Any other questions?
The vertical Nike swoosh?
It's going to be a DH gate, if I'm honest. I'm not going to spend on that. Yeah. Any other questions on this before I move on? Because I feel like I've all
no. We were just surprised that you stayed for the whole game.
As was he.
Yeah. But sitting next to Brennan Johnson's dad, I mean, that is just, it's peak cooler, really, isn't it? Like, you're there, you're doing the traditional fan thing, and I don't know. Like, I just remember one time I was at an Austria game, and I had managed to wangle a seat. It was obviously quite good. A friend of mine worked for the Football Association here, and the players' families was kind of sat around me, and I saw like Andy Weimann, who plays for Bristol City. He was like the striker that everyone hated for Austria at that time, and he started the game as a lone striker, which is not his thing. And I watched the effect on his like mum and his younger brother, who was sat in front of me, as 50,000 people are booing their and I remember thinking, okay, that was really harsh, because he's clearly trying his best. But yeah, like to actually sit next to family when you're doing that's pretty funny. It's pretty
funny. But I mean, to be honest, it made me stop and reflect a little bit about it. Is, people are entitled to voice their opinion, but I think should never get too personal about it. And when you think about like how I mean, I've got kids, you've got kids. You think how you would feel if that's your son, and they're getting absolute shit from people who are supposed to be supporting them. It probably made me think a little bit. So there you go. There's
personal growth caller. Is that what we're talking about here?
Growth. Yeah, I've taken some.
He just wants another ticket next to Brendan Johnson's dad, so he can make it all right. That's what it is.
Listen, we parted on
wearing 22 on the back.
Journey. Hey,
wearing 22 on the back, so you get next game.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah, I might. There you go. He's going on the wall in the man cave next to, in between Madison and Benton Kerr. Yeah, completely agree that. And do you know what I thought was sad as well, and we should probably touch on it. He's had to delete his social media presence on Instagram, which is terrible, really, because no one should feel like that. And he was sort of half-heartedly clapping the fans. I think Sonny sort of pushed him over there at the end. Your take on that, HG?
He obviously didn't want to do it. Like, he's like, the thing is, like, I understand both sides here. Like, I've been relatively vocal on here about how I don't really rate Johnson as a player, right? I don't think I ever crossed the line, but I guess if he was a consistent watcher to this, which, let's face it, he's not, but like that he wouldn't want to hear those words. But like, if I'm in the stadium, then I want him to do well. I mean, let's be honest, we all want him to do well. We all want Spurs to be better. And if Spurs are going to be better, then he probably is going to play a massive role in that. But yeah, like no one, if he's a sensitive lad, and there were rumors that they only picked Spurs because he would be kind of out of the spotlight to continue growing as a player. Well, I mean, that's clearly not the case at Spurs. I don't think you can be playing regularly for a club like Spurs and be out of the spotlight. And obviously, he's a very good player for the country, for Wales. They kind of expect him to be a bit of a star man there, and I don't think that's really happened for them either. So it's rough. Like we all can understand the idea that no one wants hundreds of thousands of fans thinking you're rubbish at your job, but there's only one way you can really change that. And that doesn't involve us. If we are responsible for him being a bad player or playing out of form, does that mean we are also responsible for the 10 years we supported Harry Kane and the 10 years we cheered his name? It doesn't make sense to me. Harry Kane is responsible for his greatness, and Brennan Johnson is kind of responsible for what he does on the football pitch. Yes, we can probably support our team more. I've no doubt about that. But I don't think we're to blame for this. And I feel like a lot of people are trying to suggest that maybe it's the Spurs fans' fault that he's not been as good as we would have hoped. And I just don't see that.
Okay. Well, just closing out the game, obviously. Jed Spence, good cameo. Really pleased for him, to be honest. Strange that he wasn't registered for Europa, Jack.
Well, it's still going to be probably one of the decisions that I will never understand, especially, I mean, and again, Forster hasn't played a lot of football, and he was pretty crap in the game overall, even though he only gave up the one goal. That was somewhat fortunate, to say the least. And I just don't understand it, because he clearly can play in this sort of football system. I mean, he has a skill set. He's not even playing on his natural side, and he's looked pretty good every time he's come in. He's not, I mean, makes mistakes like everybody, but he's been pretty good. So it's still going to be a problem that he's unavailable for Europa until the knockout stage, if we get there. So, and what it really tells me is what's going on with the, 5 young goalkeepers behind him that we feel we need Forster to play against Karabakh. I mean, I don't understand the decision-making. And again, there's so much information I don't have that the coaching staff, that the front, that they're looking at, but it just doesn't make any sense that we couldn't have an Austin or somebody on that squad through the group stage or league stage or whatever the hell we call it now, and leave out Spence, when we're so depleted on the back line. I mean, we've already, I hear Werner's not hurt that badly, so yay, he's available, but we don't have that much depth at fullback. And for crying out loud, Reguilon was on the bench. I mean, that was the weirdest shot when I saw him celebrating with the rest of the team. I was like, I have nothing against Reggie. I mean, I got nothing. I mean, he seems like a really good kid, but I mean, it just is a baffling decision that I don't feel has been fully explained by any of the journalists that follow the club or in anything in the press conference. I just don't get it. It doesn't make any sense.
Like, what odds do we see Reguilon play? Let's say 5 games before January. Like, for him to come on and actually be involved in 5
like
games.
An appearance.
Well, yeah, an appearance, because we only need 1 injury and he's basically on the bench, guaranteed. Really, even for league games.
Yeah,
it's absolutely it's inexplicable. I don't know how anyone can really say, like, we needed to have the keepers that we did. Like, the rules for the Europa League are obviously different. And so it made it maybe a decision that the club didn't want to make. But Jed Spence's goal basically extended his possible Spurs career before Christmas. Because we don't think he's going to play too many games in the league. I suspect that Ange will probably do anything he can to stop that happening. But like last season, we played Emerson Royal at centre-back a number of times, who was a full-back. Weirdly, Jed Spence is probably better suited just because he has the pace he does. And if we want our centre-backs to have pace, stick him there and say, you know what, all you have to do is stand here, and if the ball goes over the top, you make sure you win it. He's got the physicality to do it. It's not like you're asking Raheem Sterling to do it because he's quick. Like, Jed Spence is 6'3". He's the same size as me. It makes no sense that we have decided that for 8 games or whatever it is before the end of the Europa League season that he's not even an option. I would much rather see Luca Gunter or in goal in a group game that, let's face it, 3 of them may not even matter. If you win the first 5, you do what you want. It just seems, anyway, like we're going to have to see how it plays out.
I thought that he took his goal really well. He made the goal, and
Yes, he did.
and he tried to make stuff happen, which was more than Destiny was doing prior to that. To be fair, and
It's
I
more
like
than
Destiny.
most of our players do. I mean,
Yeah.
like that goal was probably the closest we've seen to and it's not even an Ange type goal, but almost like a Man City type goal. Like if Ange comes from the Man City tree, we don't make those little intricate passes. We haven't done that. We don't make runs off the ball that Man City are so good at. And yet here we were suddenly, like Maddison with the flick round the corner. It's not an easy ball for Kulusevski to control, but he still manages to nutmeg the defender to get it through. And Jed Spence is 2 yards behind the defender when the ball is played, and he still has the speed to even get there. I just there's no way that goal should have really been scored, but without those three players who were all subs, there's no way that Spurs score that goal. And that run that Spence made, we don't make those runs. Sorry,
that's
Jack.
exactly. No, I interrupted you, and that's what I was going to say. He pointed to the spot from 5 yards outside of the box. I mean, he puts his finger up and says, "I'm going," and Madison puts it into Kulu puts it through, and he's off. I mean, we don't. That is what this system, regardless of Ange ball, whatever, is crying out for.
That's what we're talking about.
You've got to have the horseshoe. Isn't going to get you goals, right? So you've got to have the inside the outside in run into that space. He sees it, he calls it, makes the run, the ball gets there, and it's actually a decent finish. I mean, it's a nice touch.
Yeah. You've got to have runners. You've got to have runners, and I picked this up several times, including last week's show. The wingers are so static. They are so glued. They are so fundamentally flawed. And if that's what Angie's telling him to do, then then he really doesn't know what he's doing, because they're just static. Those players have got to be making runs to drag defenders all around the place, etc. And this is what I was going back to Maddison, and I will defend Maddison. So he's had a lot of stick about, he was taking 2, 3, 4 touches on the ball against Arsenal, but it's because there's that lack of running. It's because no one ahead of you is moving. And when you go back, and if you've ever played the game, and you must have been in the situation where you've got the ball middle of their area, but everyone's marked and no one is moving. And that is exactly what we're doing right now. A lot higher level, admittedly, than Tuesday nights on the AstroTurf. But it's the same. It's the same principle. Like, if people aren't moving, your creative midfielders will look shit, because there is nothing, unless they decide to stick it in the top corner. There's nothing they can do. There's literally nothing they can do. So I'm really glad that it illustrated that, and hopefully they can build and take some confidence with that. My concern is, why does it take Spence, who's pretty much been lambasted by the club, to show him how it's done, and not Son, who's been terrible, not running at all. Johnson, sorry, Brendan, not making those runs, and whether it's an Ange instruction or whatever, completely disagree, Paul. Yes, he's had poor games, but it's not necessarily about him. The problem is the forwards, in my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, when Spurs were at their best, and I don't want to think this is at their best in my whole life, but it might well be. When we had Desk, we had Kane as a centre forward, but you'd often see Dele playing up top. You'd often see Christian Eriksen playing up top. The four of them would move positions. That's what made them so deadly, is that you never knew where they were going to be. And right now, it is like, football. Like, Son is stuck on that side of the pitch, and Jonan is stuck there. And if they get the ball to feet, well, it's very easy for a defender, because they just follow them, and then they have to pass the ball backwards. Rarely do you see let's say if the ball's played to the winger, and the fullback is making the run forward, and you have to have those little 5-yard passes inside into the path of the fullback making the run. Well, we don't really do those either. Like, there's so little inventiveness when the ball is played to those wide players that they have little choice but to go backwards with it. And if they don't have the confidence to try and take their man on, like there was one time against Arsenal where the ball was played to Son, and he let the ball run behind him, and Ben White was taken out of it completely because White was following Son. That happened once, and we all thought, okay, like Son's got him, like we have a chance here, and we never saw it again. It was all very much like to feet, look up. There's no real option around, so you play it 5 yards backwards. I don't mind that so much if it's then whipped in first time. because then you might catch a centre back off guard. But we don't do that. Everything is slow and yeah, like I mean, I get it. They stay high and wide to stretch the pitch, but it doesn't because
That's the
they don't.
theory.
They're basically just a wall. They represent the side of Spurs. But if they're not willing to do anything with it, then you're basically taking two players out of your own game and saying, right, the other ones have got to make all the runs.
Are just getting in the way of the eights, and it's all a bit messy, really.
It is a bit messy.
But if you go back to last season, and when we were on that lovely run at the start of the season, and when we were winning games, you go back and you watch the movement of the wide men and the eights, and compare it to Arsenal at the weekend, for example, or pick any of the matches that we've.
But the thing is, at that point, you're looking at Solomon because he was starting early on, right? And you're looking at, I mean, Richarlison played some of those games at left wing, which didn't work at all. Like I remember watching him at Palace, and Richarlison started the game, and I think got subbed at half time, and Brennan Johnson came on and played left wing, and we scored 2 goals, which Johnson was a part of. Certainly one of the goals. I think the winning goal, the one that ended up winning us the game, was a part of. But yeah,
you have to create space. You have to take defenders with you, and if you're not doing that, you're not going to create opportunities. That's fundamental of football.
Well, my question is, I feel like there's only really at this point of all our forwards, there's only one natural winger, and he currently has a hamstring injury, and that's Wilson Odobert. All of the other forwards. Right, Brennan Johnson, Son, Werner even would be better centrally. We've talked about this in our chat groups all the time. It seems to scream for a 3-5-2 because now that Richie's gone for a while, Odebert's probably gone for a while. You now have limited numbers, so filling out all 3 positions, it would seem more sensible to have our natural wingbacks that were brought to the club as wingbacks, providing that high width, and 2 strikers, whether it be Son and Solanke, Werner and Solanke, Johnson and Son, whatever your rotation needs to be, because what are they good at is getting in behind, playing the ball into space. And so it just seems to me that would be a better system for what we've got as a squad right now. I don't expect to see it. I mean, maybe I'll be wrong, but as an idiot American here, it just seems, and we've talked about this, it just seems to scream for that because the players are more suited to that style. Because, I mean, Brennan wasn't coming wide for the game winner. He was central, found the space, the pass was good, and it's a great finish. It's a very good touch. I mean, it is a high quality finish.
Right, it's a great finish.
Yeah, there's no fluke to that. It was exactly what he wanted it to be. But again, like we gave him time and space. Like that's the goal that we've been conceding. One pass through the back, the guy goes through and scores. So but like Brennan Johnson screams to be a player that wants to play football the way that we don't. Right? I mean, this is it. We want to be like, oh, he's in Napoli eating pizza. It is frustrating. Like, I do believe, although the squad is not as big as I want it to be, I think we need a stronger depth and a couple more players. We have good players that could be a very good team. I just don't think that. Is it always going to be this way? Like I said the same about Mourinho. I didn't like how he was setting the team up. I probably said the same about Conte. Like there are things we can do differently, but like is that what we are? Are we that dependent on a manager being able to look at his players and say, actually, this is what might work best? Long term, sure, we've got the plan we have, but can we go a whole season like trying to play Ange ball without players that can do it?
He can't afford to do
it.
He
can't, no, but will he change if he feels he's under pressure?
I don't know.
We shall see. Under pressure, he is. I think it's an interesting debate, though.
Okay, Yoda. We was under pressure. He is
under pressure. He is. Well, it's this newfound wisdom I've got from being a reflective author. I think Paul's spot on. They are better in transition with pace and the ball played in front of them because that's where they've got to run on to, and we have got to learn how to beat a low block. I mean, Coventry were great from the perspective of they gave it a go, but they literally gave us the game. They were kamikaze in that second goal. I mean, what they were doing, they could have had penalties, which is a lottery, and then they did that. But thank you very much, Coventry. I appreciate it. Johnson's, I apologise, and thanks for the hug. And here we go with the team news for the weekend. So, Odebear ruled out with a hamstring injury. Werner is available, you'll all be pleased to hear. And Yves Bissouma should return, but it's on the sidelines. Brentford have got Wisser out, and Thomas Frank has still got quite a few players out, actually.
Wow.
Right, John, as you've just joined, if you're ready to talk, and I need to go top up my glass because I'm running out of beer. Can you give us your thoughts about what you think of the Brentford game this weekend? Is this a potential banana skin for Spurs, or is it an opportunity to build some confidence and momentum?
It's 100% a potential banana skin for Spurs. We will concede. There's no doubt in my mind. Even with Romero back and Van der Ven, we'll concede probably 2 goals. Even though Wisser's out, they've got Sharda, is it, HG? Who's lightning quick, as well as Mbembe. So I suspect we'll concede probably 1 on the counter and 1 from a set piece. So it's really, can Spurs score 3 or 4 goals is the real question. And the way we've been playing, the answer is probably no, but we can just hope that we will do better. One of my questions would have been, would Ange put Werner Johnson in? Because obviously he didn't play particularly well, but did score a very good goal. And if he didn't, then his confidence, which is obviously very low as it is, might take a real hit. Given Odebear is out, I don't think he's got much choice but to play Johnson on the right. We know Son will play on the left. Solanke's going to be up front. I think the real question is, I think Kulu's got to play. You saw what he did, and it was only because Werner got injured that Kulusevski came on. Ange got lucky there. And sometimes it's these sort of things that can really define a manager's career at a club.
Like a deflected free kick from a central striker.
Yeah, he's only ever free kick, wasn't it? As well, these things can really define a manager's. Mark Robbins, the Coventry manager, scored a header for Manchester United in January 1990 that basically kept Alex Ferguson in the job. He'd been there for 3 and a bit years, and obviously the rest is history with Fergie. So really, Bissouma's obviously back. Bentancur, we're expecting a ban any day now. Obviously, it looks like he'll be able to play tomorrow because I don't think we've heard about a ban, have we? So
correct.
I wonder if he might move Bentancur into one of the 8 positions, Bissouma in the middle. But then what you're going to do, you're going to play Kulusevski as the striker. I think he'll want to play Solanke to get more minutes in him, won't he?
Of course.
So is it going to be Maddison, Bissouma and Kulusevski, or will he rest Maddison? I'm not sure he will, but
yeah.
Go on,
I don't know if resting is probably enters Ange's mind just yet. Like, the 3 games a week has only just started. So you'd like to think that if we're going to rest a player, it might be for the Karabag game, or is it, like the so-called first teamers won't play the Karabag one. We have another midweek game probably before. I think it's the Ferencváros game, another Europa League game. That one we could see players move out, but like we all want to see, I think, more of Bergvall. We all know that Kulusevski has probably been our best player this season. Let's face it. Like pre-season, He was good. He's played well in the games that he's played. And Paul is right. Like the thing is, what do you do with Kulusevski? Like, if we're playing against a low block, which you'd imagine Brentford would set up to play on the counter, that's what they do.
Yep.
So where do you want Kulusevski at that moment? My guess is he should be, as Paul said, playing down the right.
Yeah, I think that's. I mean, I don't know what he's going to do. What I would do is definitely put him on the right, knowing he's going to come inside. And say, Porro, you're going to overlap and go out the right. And you might, as poor as Sarr has been this season, I don't know what's going on there. He will cover that space on the right behind Porro. And if Decky's going to cut inside, Porro goes high, Sarr comes out to the right and covers that spot. I think that might be the best solution, even though I don't know what's going on with Sarr because he's fallen off a cliff in terms of his performance. But yeah, I think that at Kulu, where you play Kula will dictate all of the other positions, I think, in midfield completely.
Yeah, I think the real thing for me, Kulu's best moments have been when he's almost been playing the false 9 position. He created a number of goals pre-season, and obviously Spence's goal. Maddison played that brilliant ball through to him. He quick touch. He saw Spence pointing, ran onto it, goal, and that's what Kulu can give us. Now, I imagine Brentford will be a bit tighter at the back, so they'll be harder to find that space. But you've got to have runners. And how many times have we seen our players running off the striker this year? Not many. Certainly, Udogie hasn't been doing it. Porro scored, obviously, the goal against Leicester, which that's the sort of goal we have to score against low blocks. Maybe those crossed-in goals from deeper with the players running from midfield to try and attack the ball. I think that's going to be the way we can do it, because our crossing from wide is terrible, isn't it, really? So that's probably the trick.
Non-existent.
I mean, this is right. Like Jack's right. Like Kulusevski is almost the keyest player, if I can invent a word. He really is key to everything that we do. Because if we want to play a 4-3-3, if we want to play traditional Ange ball, then right now he has to be on the right. Because I don't think, everyone says Johnson's best off the bench, and I guess there's evidence for that. But I just think that Johnson should be on the bench, regardless of what happens afterwards. So he can stretch tired legs and all the rest of it. But there's evidence that Kulusevski, we played well with 2 attacking 8s, and that Maddison and Kulusevski together can help push that defensive line further back. So maybe we can do more there. But yeah, Kulusevski seems almost like what we do with him dictates how we play. And like we do expect to face a low block tomorrow. And if that's the case, then we need players who can sometimes cross a ball well. He's not the best at it. We need players who can beat his man both ways, which again, Kulusevski has shown he can do. Maybe not as consistently as we'd like, but we know he can do it. And I feel like the midfielders that we have, none of them are really suited to a midfield 2. Right? They always need, whether it's inverted fullbacks or something, they need to have strength there in numbers. So with Bentancur or Sarr or Bergvall or even Archie Gray, I don't expect him to play, but like Archie Gray, I think would work better in a midfield 3 if he's going to do it. So yeah, like what we do with Kulusevski, like he plays up front with Isak for Sweden in a front 2. And like he could almost be like Sheringham was for Spurs, where he would drop into midfield and spray those passes. Like Kulu has it in him to be the best player in this team, the most important player in this team, but he doesn't show it as much as we would like. But I do think it's in there.
Well, looking forward, Brentford have lost their form 12 of the last 16 away league games. They could lose their opening 3 away matches in the league campaign for the first time since 2004-05 in League One. That'd be nice, wouldn't it? Thomas Frank's side have lost 4 consecutive Premier League away derbies. They're only beaten in 3 of their first 13. Wan-Bissaka, of course, is injured now. Sorry?
Wan-Bissaka?
What am I on about? Johan Wissa. I've had too much beer. They've been directly involved in 8 of the last 10 league goals. Mumbayo's the danger man, isn't he? I think he's the kind of player we need, I think. So there we go. Whole load of stats. And then obviously Spurs, lowest Premier League start since the 15-16 campaign. However, we did okay that season, didn't we? I think we recovered to finish, was it 3rd? I want to say, John.
Apparently, yeah. I mean, we stopped playing when we were in 2nd, so I figured that's when we stopped the count then. But yeah, it was a decent year that year. We certainly towards the end we looked like a pretty good team.
Yeah. Well, I mean, a whole host of stats. John, talk us through.
I could just read. I just copied and pasted it off the BBC website. I'm not going to lie. So, but basically, all those stats from Brentford just say away win, don't they? They hardly ever win away. They're going to win. We are Dr. Tottenham, aren't we?
We'll see you now.
It definitely helps that Wissa is out, because Wissa does score like that. Bearing in mind that if they've got 4 strikers, Brentford, like the big striker they bought to replace Tony isn't fit. Wissa's not fit. So you've got Mbeumo and Shada, like who are both more comfortable out wide or down the middle. And their pace will make it difficult for us. Like they're not bad players by any means, but I think that the fact that those players that you listed that were out for Brentford, 3 or 4 of them, I would say, are part of their best team. So that doesn't mean that the players coming in are going to be terrible, but it should help us. Like Aaron Hickey's a very good fullback on both sides, and he's been out for a while.
Yeah.
I love Matthias Jensen. I just think he's a really class footballer. So yeah, like the fact that he can't play is good, but Brentford are designed to hurt Tottenham because they do everything that we hate, everything that we can't defend is what they're very good at, and it's not going to be easy.
Well, recent clashes with Brentford have mostly been favourable. There 3 draws in there. So, we don't generally lose to them very often, I suppose, is what you can take away from that. So, without tempting too much fate. Recent form for Brentford, obviously beating Palace, who are by no means a bad side at all, losing to Liverpool, and obviously Colchester doesn't really count. But easily dispatched Southampton, lost to Manchester City, but played very well. So, they're not in terrible form when you compare it to the 9th in the league table, which means nothing at the moment, but they're not in terrible form when you compare it to us. Jack, I'm going to raise the elephant in the room. Ange Postecoglou, or Ange Postecoglou, as I've seen doing the rounds on X and Facebook and various other places. Is he now really under pressure from fans? Because I listened to For All My Sins Talk Sport on the way home a couple of times from the Arsenal game and then the other night against Coventry. And I would say 80% of the calls that came in were basically saying this manager is clueless. What's your view?
I remember very vividly the same calls to Talk Sport and social media. It was the exact same thing for a good 2 years with Gooner fans calling for Arteta out. And I'm not saying that Postecoglou is Arteta and Arteta is Postecoglou. I do know that when you are coming into a situation where you have a squad not fit for purpose for the type of football you want to play, and you have senior players who may not be buying into your system. I mean, the Arsenal board backed him and got a very senior player that played a lot of minutes and scored a lot of goals for Arsenal, and it got him out of the club because he didn't fit the system that he wanted to play or the type of culture he was trying to create, whatever. We as fans made a lot of fun and had a lot of joy watching that struggle down the road. And, as I said in previous calls, pods or whatever, that if not for Christian Pulisic pulled hamstring on a one-on-one with the goalkeeper, they probably don't win that FA Cup and he might not have survived. So I'm of the opinion that Postecoglou is not an idiot. He's been successful a lot of places. I don't want to get into the debate about Scotland isn't England or Japan isn't England. He finished 5th last year with a team that, could have put anywhere from 3rd to 5th last season, could have been there without a lot of players he wants. He's brought in more players theoretically he wants. The squad is a little bit more suited to his needs. They're playing poorly, and I expected them to play poorly. I didn't think we would get out to a good start this season. But I am not bailing on this manager because I have not the years that you lot have had supporting this club, and I'm tired of the rebuilds. So I am saying just see it out. I'm asking the board to have the patience, let the man get to the end of the season, and then evaluate where we are. I just don't see the point in firing another manager again, because this leadership, of Levy and the board have been churning managers, not to the Watford level, but man, we've been churning managers, and I just don't see the point of that. You can't get consistency, you can't get success unless you're going to spend the money to bring in, ready-made players across the starting 11, which we know we're not going to. Then let them have the time, get all the way to the end of the season, and shut up for a little while and admit you don't know everything. See what happens. And if we dumpster fire and we're 8th or 9th or 10th, and you want to have them out, great. But I mean, Arteta finished 8th and 8th, and they kept him on, and now they've built a very good squad and a very competitive situation where they arguably probably would have won the league if not for the financially enhanced club up north. So I don't buy the impatience that fans have. But I realize we are in a culture where one win is your entire life, and losing 2 3 games in a row to Arsenal is unbearable when you have to go to work and see your friends and neighbors. I only have one Arsenal fan in my office that I have to look at when I walk in every day. So it's a lot easier for me to say that. But I just say, just take a break. Just bear with it for a while, see where we are at the end of the season, then make some decisions.
Okay, so let's ask the audience. There's 242 people watching. So whether you're on Twitter, whether you're watching on YouTube, please do two things. Smash the like button and let me know with a comment whether you're Ange in or Ange out right now. It would be good to get a little flavour from the 250 odd people that are watching right now. John, your sort of summary. Are you Ange in, Ange out? Where are you? It's a conversation I didn't want to be having it after a few games of the season, but it's probably the conversation that the fans are having. So it's right, we should discuss it.
Right at this minute, I'm the same as Jack. I'm saying we've got to stick with Ange. We can't go sacking another manager and end up with Ryan Mason managing us for the next 34 league games. That would just, that would be Spurs, wouldn't it? We've got to stick with this. You've got to give him time. I think the Arteta case is a prime example. Bear in mind, Pep finished 4th in his first season behind Spurs. He had a whole season and finished 4th. So things don't happen.
And that was a pretty good squad, by the way.
That was a good squad. Yeah. They spent a lot of money on. They just needed to replace the fullbacks was the general gist.
They took one of ours, so, it worked for them, didn't it?
Yeah. So I think we've got to stick with him until at least Christmas. I am getting frustrated and worried, and I think all of us, and he's getting antsy, isn't he? If you notice in the press conferences, he's getting a little bit antsy with questions.
He doesn't like being challenged, John.
He doesn't. You're right. Yeah. It's frustrating when we can all see small tweaks that could be made that you'd think would improve it. I mean, you obviously sit behind the goal at Spurs, don't you, Caller? When you're up in that position, you can see so much tactically, and you think, why is that happening? Is it the players aren't following his instructions? Do they not know how to? I mean, see, Romero switched off 3 times now for goals that we've conceded, or we think, or is it Dragusin on some occasions? I think we've got to stick with it. You've got to keep him let him keep working. Let's see some of these players getting some more minutes. Making the number of changes he did at Coventry was stupid. I was hoping maybe 3 or 4. What he's got to do is drop these players in so they get more minutes as we go without weakening the team massively. But like I say, there's no point changing it now because we're just going to be on the same cycle again. What do we do next? Do we get in another Conte manager type thing?
Someone ex-Chelsea, that's what we need. Someone who used to be at Chelsea.
Would Klopp come? He probably wants a year off, doesn't he?
Yeah.
But seriously, if Klopp was available, would you take him now?
Yes.
Oh, we would, but he's not going to come to Spurs. Yeah, of course we would.
But I can't. Who else realistically? I mean, we talked about the guy at Bournemouth, didn't we? But you're pulling guys from all the clubs. It's another
Rodgers.
Clueless Yank.
Because your hair grown since you've been live.
Yes, it has actually. Yep, it actually has. That's how fast it grows.
Look, I will say this about Ange: like people who want Ange out, I'm assuming because I'm not one of them, but the people who want Ange out, they're not basing it on what we've seen in the 5 games so far this season. They're basing it on what they've seen so far in 2024. They're including those games that Caller showed in all the games that we lost at the end of last season.
The past 32 matches.
Yeah,
it's a big sample.
It is a big sample now, right? And you can maybe say, let's say, a third of those 32 matches we had like important injuries, which people seem to just decide that means it's okay to lose if you've got 1 or 2 players out. But most of those games that we've lost, if you look at them, it's Liverpool away, it's Newcastle away, it's Chelsea away, it's games that we don't win anyway. When we were at full strength, when we were as good as we were, we didn't go there and win, right? It's Arsenal at home. Yeah, the 2 games against Arsenal hurt because they were both at home. But let's face it, Arsenal, sadly, are one of the best 2 teams in the league. Maybe one of the best 3 if you think that Liverpool can do it this year. But still, they are one of the best teams. And so it seems at Spurs right now, we lose to teams that we probably should lose to. We beat teams that we probably should beat. And the ones in the middle, it's a bit of a potluck. What's going to happen? Like, are we going to... we might win, we might lose. Same with Brentford. Like, none of us really know what's going to happen tomorrow. We know that we have the quality to win, but we also know that Brentford have the quality to beat us and that anything is possible. And that's kind of where Spurs need to improve. Like, the games at home against big teams, you want to come out with at least a point. The games away at big teams, where we are now, we would all take a point. We are not ready to go to those teams and say, like, to go toe to toe with them and to try and beat them at our own game. And we wouldn't have been even if we'd won all 4 of our games this season. That's still that's going to take ages to get to that point. But that doesn't mean that the results we've had aren't maybe down to and not being pragmatic, because some of those things could have been different. And I don't necessarily think it's because the players could have executed more. It's because we aren't doing the best we can. And that if we put our team out there and we put them in their best positions and they tried their hardest and we had chances and it didn't work out, we'd all be sitting here going, okay, well, next time you might expect a different result. But the way Spurs are playing, like, we were outplayed by Coventry, who are mid-table and have only scored more than 1 goal in a game once this season, right? We were outplayed by them. And yes, it wasn't our first team, but I'm not really sure our first team would have done much better, genuinely. Like, I think Coventry played that game perfectly with their second team. They made a load of changes too. There is a lot to be concerned about with Ange, and it's not necessarily the results. You can look at those results and say they're bad, but yeah, it's because we were playing good teams, maybe. Are Spurs performing to what they can? No. And that has to be on Ange.
My view, for what it's worth, I understand the concern. I understand why people are frustrated. I understand why every time we're on a downer, everyone's like, get the owners out, get the manager out, he's clueless, etc. He spent an awful lot of money, hasn't he? Over 300 million quid over 2 seasons in terms of outlay. I think you've got to give him this season at least to show. And he did describe that it's going to take several windows. The issue with Ange is his stubbornness and a bit of arrogance, really, going on about, I always win something in my second season and all of that. And I know he's like clarified what he meant, but there's just no need for it. It's a conversation you don't need to have. So why are you going down that route?
Because it seems like that's what all the managers have done. I mean, it's no different than really what Conte said, where I win everywhere, but not at Tottenham. Yeah. And Mourinho keeps on making the point. I win everywhere, but I didn't win at Tottenham. Yeah. And I'll be honest, I don't usually blame football decisions on Levy. I don't, right? Because when it comes to the season, Levy's not in the changing rooms. He's not giving motivational speeches.
I'd love to give him. I'd love to see him give a motivational talk.
Yeah, quite. And the whole thing he did with Ndombele in the documentary. But the point is that this is the first season where I've looked at what Spurs have done in the transfer window and thought they're not trying to win. Normally, I could see, we're using our money maybe a bit wisely, and we're trying to get players to build the depth of the squad, and maybe they're not great players, but we can get them for 2 or 3 years, and they're experienced and they provide something. This time, I don't see it. And we talked earlier in our little WhatsApp group about Aston Villa and how they've changed since Emery came in. And yeah, Villa have spent big money on some players, but it's not been that many. I think I saw that they spent big money on 2 players this summer and big money on 2 players last summer. And they bought Rodgers for next to nothing, and they got Tielemans on a free, and they got Ross Barkley, who's not really played for them, but clearly is a good midfielder at this level, ran the show for Luton last year, and they got him for next to nothing. That's the squad building that Spurs probably could and should have been doing, and we've gone all in on youth, and we've paid lots of money on certain players, and we've put ourselves in the position that if those players don't live up to those expectations, we aren't going to be any different. There's no plan B of how we can renew ourselves. It's like we put all our eggs in Solanke's basket, and now we have to make sure it works. He can't do it by himself, but we've put ourselves in the position that the money we've spent has gone to improve our Europa League team, which, okay, great. But is that where we are? Is that what we're focusing on? I don't want that to be Spurs.
To me, it just looks like they've ripped up. They were going to try and win this season, even though Ange keeps going on about his second season. To me, it says we are looking for 2 or 3 years' time. We're trying to grow a squad a bit like we had under Pochettino, or even under when Frank Arnson came in and we bought Huddleston, we bought Danny Rose, we bought Dawson and Walker and Norton. All these guys, we bought players for the future who became good. Most of them became very good players, and the club made money off them. And that
but we
seems to
bought a
me
lot of
that's
them,
where we're
didn't
going.
we? I mean, that's the thing. We bought a lot of players. We bought Andy Reid. We bought a whole bunch of players that came and didn't stick, and we sold them on and maybe made a bit of profit, maybe lost a little bit of money, but like we gambled, but we were smart with our gambling, right? Now it's like, right,
We were spread betting.
Everything's on zero.
Yeah.
Right? We're going for zero. It's going to come in. And I just don't think it's wise. And like, again, I don't think I'm an expert, but logically where Spurs were, I think it would have made more sense to spend 20, 30 million, those awful numbers that Davo hates, on a bunch of players and hoping that someone would stick. Like if we want to have a young team or a young squad, then great, let's do that. But I just the fact, I mean, it's weird. This is not down to Ange, but the fact that they combined this new youthful, we're going to hopefully be a good team in 2 or 3 seasons, and they combined it with a massive price hike in ticket prices. No wonder the average fan is annoyed, because they're spending even more money for something that basically says 2 years' time will be good. You'll get to watch those first few games. I don't know. Like it just. Stop whining. If Spurs were winning, Will. If Spurs were winning, if Spurs looked like a decent football team, we don't. Like, I'm sorry, you can keep your head in the sand a bit longer if you want, but we don't
he's
look like a
in,
good
just
football
to
team.
clarify, anyone who just joined the show, just want to.
I am. Well, no, I think it's like it's Langer. I'm very much. I'm already Langer out. I'm not aiming Ange out. I'm Langer out. What is he doing?
That's fair.
That's exactly what Carl said. There we go.
What's your predictions then, John? How's it going to be? How's the game going to pan out? And what's the score going to be?
When you went off for a beer, I did say we're going to see 2 goals, one from a set piece and one from a counter attack.
What's he doing?
In my brain, I don't think we can score 3
goals.
No, it's my cat.
We're going to win 3-2.
3-2, John.
We're going to win 3-2. Even though I don't think we'll score 3, but
we're going to win 3-2, but we won't score 3. I like that.
I can't
go to
see
bet
it,
65 with that. See what the odds are.
You're such a believer.
I hope we'll win 3-2.
Such a believer. HG, what's it going to be like? What's the score? And let us know in the comments what's your score going to be for tomorrow.
I mean, this is like I will be honest. I didn't see the City Brentford game that Paul keeps referencing. That Brentford were a lot more attacking than maybe I thought they would have been. If Brentford played like that against us, and I think the year they beat us 3-1 at home, I think at half time it was 1-0 to Spurs, and then Brentford decided they were going to play football and they wiped the floor with us.
Yep.
That can happen again. I said 1-0 to Arsenal last week. I have a feeling Brentford might nick it again. So 2-1 Brentford.
Well, how much pressure is Andy going to be on if that's the case?
Oh, God,
I mean, from the fans, lots, and he would deserve it. But like, no matter what injuries we have, like if Odebear's out and Richarlison's out, is that it? Are they the 2? Like, this is Ange's squad minus 1 player who we bought less than a month ago, or just about a month ago. Do you know what I mean? Like, it's like, and I don't blame Odebear, like, but it's still like this is what Ange wanted. So if we lose the game playing the way that Ange wants us to play with people that Ange wanted to keep, you have to look at Ange, and I am Ange in. I am. I don't want to sack him, but it's like as you guys said, I don't want him sacked because we always do this. Like, at what point do we change and say no? We'll take all these bad results because we believe that something will happen long term. It's rough. It's rough on Ange. Another El Sacico.
My prediction. So I tend to be a contrarian, and right now I don't think things. I mean, after that performance midweek, which was again, I think the single worst win I've seen this team ever produce. And I could be wrong, but I can't think of another one that is worse. But the nice thing is we usually lose those games. That's not how this team usually wins. Leicester game away, that aside, we weren't that terrible that game. We just got lucky. I mean, I take the contrarian view that you'll get a bounce and you'll see a much better performance. You'll see a more focused performance. You have your center back pairing who got the week off, so to speak. And I expect a very, very organized, very efficient team this weekend. I think clean sheets are too much to ask for, but I actually think we'll finally get something moving in the offensive zone there a little bit, and we'll take a 3-1 win.
Well, there's lots of you letting us know how it's going to go in the chat. Kerry's saying 2-1 to us. David Harris, I thought you'd left, Dave, but you're back.
He can't stay away.
Werner hat-trick, he loves it. Any opportunity. I'm surprised he didn't say Levy with the winner. King Hoddle, 2-1. Squeaky bum time, 2-1. A lot of people saying 2-1. James is saying 1-0. Barry, 4-0 Spurs or 1-0 Brentford. That's quite a spread. John's saying John is the epitome of despair. 3-0 Brentford.
I think maybe he's a Brentford fan. Who knows?
Maybe, you never know. Super Spur, he won't be set regardless. 3-1 win anyway. That'd be nice. Carl's just saying, yeah, we're gonna win, man. We're gonna win. Bentacle can play, can't he? Because he has an nice hearing. So
he's eligible.
So look, I think for me, I think we're gonna. I want to say we're gonna win, but I can't. I'm so worried about it. Brentford are a decent team. Look at their form; it's all pointing to us losing 2-0 to us. Oh, come on, Mark, you've seen us play. I'm gonna say we are going to win 2-1. I'll go with all the people in the chat. It's it's a nice scoreline. We will concede a shit goal from a set piece, but we have got enough about us to win. And if I don't sound fully committed and convincing, it's because I don't really believe it. But look, 270 odd people watching. Thanks for your support tonight. Please do, if you're watching on Twitter, get over to YouTube and like and subscribe. And we'll go live every week, hopefully, on multi-channel. And, it's going to be a good season. It's a long season, but we're here for you all the way. We'll be back on Monday, I want to say, John. Is it Monday we're coming back, or are we doing post-match tomorrow? What's going on?
I think it's Monday. I will be very busy dealing with a Fresh as Silent Disco, so I won't be here, certainly. Yeah,
but Gibbo might turn up for once, so you never know.
Depends if he forgets his son's birthday this time or not.
Yeah. Gibbo. The show's cancelled today, by the way, because Gibbo forgot his son's birthday. So, yeah. Anyway, until next time, come on, you Spurs.
Come on, you Spurs.
Come on, you Spurs. Thanks for watching.